She sent a bulldozer to demolish my home, while my daughter was still inside. I stood there screaming, begging them to stop, but the machine didn't slow down. Walls cracked, glass exploded, my family's legacy crushed. And the woman behind it? She just watched and smiled. You won't believe what happened next. My name is Jack Whitman. I'm 45 years old, and before everything fell apart, I was just a farmer trying to hold on to a little slice of the past. I wasn't looking for trouble. I didn't care about homeowners associations, community standards, or what shade of beige was allowed on garage doors. I cared about the land, my land, and everything it stood for. You see, this farm wasn't just property, it was history. My grandfather bought the original 50 acres after coming back from the war in 1946. He'd seen hell overseas, real hell, and all he wanted when he got back was peace and space to breathe. He and my grandmother worked it from nothing, built a tiny house with their own hands, one nail and beam at a time, cleared the land, planted potatoes, raised chickens. They never had much, but they had pride. My dad took over in the 70s, and that's when things really started to grow. He added cattle, planted corn and soybeans, and expanded into beekeeping, of all things. My mom ran a roadside stand selling jams and honey. I still remember riding in the back of the truck with jars clinking together and the smell of wildflower honey thick in the air. And me? I was born in that farmhouse, slept in the same room from cradle to high school. I learned how to milk a cow before I could ride a bike. My first job was mucking stalls. My first scar came from barbed wire while fixing a fence. My hands grew calluses before I hit puberty, and I was damn proud of it. I married young Ellie, was my high school sweetheart. We built a life that wasn't glamorous, but it was good. We had 2 daughters, Sarah and June. Raised them the same way I was raised. Honest work, dirt under your nails, respect for the land and for each other. I used to sneak out early before sunrise just to fix the old fence before my daughters woke up. I'd come in with muddy boots, and they'd still be curled up on the couch watching cartoons, waiting for Mom's pancakes. That was my peace. That was my purpose. But things started changing around the late 90s. One by one, the neighboring farms started selling off pieces of their land. Developers came in like vultures. And pretty soon, where cornfields used to sway in the wind, we had vinyl fences and sprinkler systems and kids on scooters named Braden and Skylar. They called the development Saints Creek Estates. Clean streets, HOA bylaws, community Facebook groups, rules for how long your garage door could stay open. And every one of them seemed to hate the fact that our farm even existed. At first, we tried to be good neighbors. We smiled, waved, dropped off fresh eggs. One neighbor used to wave every morning, Gary, nice guy. Until the HOA meeting where they all voted to file a petition about the odor from the Whitman place. After that, he wouldn't even make eye contact, like I was contagious. Then came the complaints. The rooster was too loud. The cows smelled. One guy came over to complain about my daughter's 4-H pig because he thought it was an eyesore. I brushed it off. Figured they'd adjust. This land had been here for 70 years before any of them showed up. It wasn't us that needed to change. But I underestimated one thing. Karen McAllister. She moved in around 2005. Karen McAllister, early 50s, but always dressed like she was trying to impress someone half her age. Her hair was bleached to a stiff platinum blonde that never moved, not even in the wind. She wore lipstick so bright it looked like a warning sign, and strutted around in matching outfits, perfectly pressed slacks, color-coordinated cardigans, and wedge heels that sunk into the grass like they didn't belong anywhere near dirt. Her yard was spotless. No toys, no tools, not even a hose out of place. Not a weed in sight. It looked like a photo from a catalog, cold, curated, and lifeless. The kind of place you wouldn't let kids be kids or let a dog run free. The kind of place that screamed, "Control matters more than comfort." She introduced herself with a forced smile and a laminated flyer titled, "Our Community Vision." Right away, I knew what she was, a control freak, with too much free time and no sense of boundaries. She quickly got herself elected president of the HOA, ran unopposed. From there, it got worse fast. Letters started coming in the mail, not addressed personally but stamped with the Saints Creek HOA seal, like it meant something. The tone was always the same, overly polite but dripping with condescension. She'd bring me muffins, homemade, still warm with her HOA letters tucked under the plate. Always smiled, always called me Mr. Whitman, like I was a child being corrected by a teacher. "We appreciate your contributions to the character of the neighborhood, Mr. Whitman, but we must ask that you address the following violations." Violations? Of what? I wasn't part of their HOA, never signed anything. My land was separate, grandfathered in by county law. But that didn't matter to Karen. She saw my farm as a threat, a stain on her perfect little kingdom, and she was determined to scrub it clean. At first, it was noise complaints the rooster again. Then came accusations that I was running an illegal business. She even filed a nuisance claim with the county about the smell of manure. One time, I caught her walking the edge of my property with a clipboard, measuring tape in hand, muttering to herself about non-compliant structures. It was like watching someone audit reality. We tried to ignore her, tried to outlast the storm. But Karen wasn't just a neighbor. She was a force of nature, with a power complex and a vendetta. It was a dry summer. Dust hung in the air like bad news. And the quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt loaded, like the world was holding its breath before something broke. And little did I know, she was just getting started. After that summer, everything changed. What started as passive-aggressive flyers and weird looks turned into an all-out psychological war. Karen McAllister didn't just want us gone, she wanted us erased. The first sign was the letters. Not one or two, but dozens. Every week. Sometimes they came in plain white envelopes, sometimes hand-delivered by smug HOA volunteers who wouldn't even make eye contact. Each one cited some supposed violation. Unpermitted structure adjacent to north boundary. Objectionable odors impacting adjacent properties. Non-conforming livestock operations within visual line of neighboring patios. They sounded official, full of legalese and scare tactics, but they were nonsense. Our farm had been fully permitted and zoned as agricultural for decades. County law was on our side. But Karen knew something most people don't. You don't have to be right if you make someone's life miserable enough. She weaponized bureaucracy like a club. When the letters didn't push us out, she stepped it up. We started getting random inspections folks from the county showing up unannounced to verify complaints. One guy told me off the record that Karen had filed over 50 formal reports against us, all bogus, all dismissed. But each one meant stress, time off work, and money. We tried to talk to the county, filed reports, begged for help, but no one wanted to touch it. Too messy, too political. I started to realize we weren't just ignored, we were invisible. And that's the worst kind of silence. Then the damage started. It began with our mailbox being smashed repeatedly. I'd fix it, and within days it'd be knocked down again. Then came the garbage. Bags of rotting trash tossed into our fields, bottles, diapers, even used cat litter dumped near our barn. My wife once found a whole pile of broken glass scattered across the driveway entrance, hidden just enough to slash a tire. I called the sheriff every time. But out here, they don't come quick. And even when they did, they just shrugged. No cameras, no witnesses. Not much we can do, Mr. Whitman. The real heartbreak came with the animals. One morning, I found my prize hen dead not from illness, but snapped neck, tossed into the ditch. A week later, one of our goats turned up, poisoned. The vet confirmed it, someone had laced food with antifreeze. Try explaining to your little girl why her favorite goat, the one she raised from a baby, is lying stiff in the barn. My daughter, Sarah, started having nightmares. My wife, Ellie, stopped sleeping. She'd sit at the kitchen table, shotgun next to her, flinching at every creak. I'd pretend to be calm, but inside, I was boiling. Ellie stopped laughing. It used to echo through the kitchen when the girls joked around. Now, she just stared into her coffee, quiet, like she was somewhere else entirely. We put up cameras, cheap ones at first, then upgraded, but every time they were either torn down or somehow went dark right when something happened. It was like dealing with ghosts. Karen, of course, denied everything. Every time I confronted her, she'd smile that same smug smile. Mr. Whitman, I understand you're under a lot of stress. Perhaps farming is no longer compatible with this evolving community." She made it sound like we were the ones out of line, like we were clinging to some outdated lifestyle that didn't belong in her polished little utopia. She once told me, dead serious, "I'm saving this neighborhood from becoming an eyesore. You should be thanking me." That's when I realized she wasn't a villain in her story. She thought she was the hero. But I knew what this really was. She wanted us to snap, to get angry, to retaliate. Because the moment we did, the moment I laid a finger on her or one of her people, it would validate her entire narrative. The angry farmer can't adapt. The angry farmer's a danger. So we endured. But every day, the noose got tighter. We started receiving unsigned letters. Slipped under our door, stuck to our barn, threats. "Leave while you still can. You're not welcome here. Accidents happen." My youngest, June, once found a crude drawing taped to our fence. It showed a burning barn and stick figures lying face down. That was the first time I truly felt fear. Not just anger, fear. We started locking every door, every night, armed ourselves, kept the kids inside after dark. This wasn't just harassment anymore. It was psychological warfare, and we were losing ground. There were nights I stood out by the barn, staring at the fence line. I thought about packing up, selling the last of the cattle, just walking away. But then I'd see my daughters asleep inside, and I knew they deserved better than surrender. And yet, we stayed. Because this land was our bloodline. This farm was carved by my grandfather's hands, nurtured by my father, and passed to me with every calloused fingerprint still etched into the wood of our barn. But Karen, she wasn't done yet. She had one more move to make, one I never saw coming. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember the sky was gray, that ominous kind of cloud cover that feels like a warning. There was no wind, just stillness. I was fixing the old wood slats on the east fence. My youngest, June, was inside doing her schoolwork at the kitchen table. Ellie was folding laundry. It was just a normal, quiet morning or so, we thought. Then I heard it. A low rumble. At first, I thought it was a distant storm, but the vibration in the ground told me otherwise. I turned toward the driveway, and that's when I saw them. A massive yellow bulldozer, not the kind used for landscaping. No, this one was the real deal industrial, with a blade taller than me and treads that chewed into the gravel like it was hungry. Behind it, 3 black pickup trucks rolled in like they owned the place, each one stamped with the Saints Creek HOA logo in bold silver letters. It looked like a damn convoy. And there she was, Karen McAllister. In her power suit, designer sunglasses, arms folded like she was about to oversee a demolition in downtown LA, not on someone's family land. She didn't say a word, just gave a little nod. I started running toward the dozer, yelling, waving my arms. "Stop! What the hell do you think you're doing?" The driver hesitated for half a second, looked toward Karen, then backed the blade into gear, and drove straight into my home. The sound. I'll never forget that sound. Cracking timber, shattering glass, the foundation shrieking under the weight. The front porch exploded into splinters. The living room window, the same one my daughters had decorated with paint snowflakes every winter, shattered into 100 pieces. My mom's wedding photo, still hanging in the hallway, gone in a cloud of splinters. The piano my daughters learned to play on, flipped and crushed under the treads. The pantry my grandmother built with her bare hands, reduced to dust. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the chaos. June was still inside. I sprinted through the side door, screaming her name, found her curled under the kitchen table, shaking her stuffed pig clutched so tight her knuckles were white. We got out just in time, moments before the blade slammed into the corner of the house. Ellie was outside already, screaming, sobbing, phone in hand, trying to reach 911. The operator told her officers were en route, but I knew they wouldn't come fast enough. They never did. When the dust settled, the house, my family's home for 3 generations, was half destroyed. And that's when Karen walked up. No apology, no explanation. Just that smug smile. "Mr. Whitman," she said, like she was reading off a grocery list. Your structure has been deemed non-compliant under Emergency Code 6.04 of the HOA's Environmental Impact Standards. My daughter was inside that house. She blinked, slowly, coldly. That's unfortunate, she said. We're on schedule. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're not even legally over this land, I barked back. We were here before your stupid hoe even existed. She held up a folder, some forged legal document covered in HOA seals and lawyer gibberish. Effective as of last month, she said, this property falls under community enforcement jurisdiction. Then she turned to the men in vests. Continue. The machines roared back to life. I stood there, fists clenched so tight my nails cut into my palms. I wanted to rip that document from her hand and throw it into the dirt. I wanted to scream in her face until the earth cracked open. I wanted to fight. But I didn't, because my kids were watching. I turned to Ellie. She was crying, not the loud kind, the quiet, hopeless kind, the kind where you know something sacred is being taken and there's nothing you can do. So I did the only thing I could. I started recording, pulled out my phone, and filmed everything. The machines, the men, Karen, her smug face, the destroyed home, the shaking hands of my daughter as she clung to her stuffed pig. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hit record, but I filmed it anyway. I filmed my past burning so I could build a future from its ashes. That night, we didn't sleep. We sat in lawn chairs on the edge of the wreckage. A few neighbors peeked out from behind their blinds, but no one came over. No one said a word. We were alone. But I wasn't broken. Something in me snapped that day, not in rage, in purpose. I made a vow. If she wanted war, she'd get one. And I would fight it not with fists, but with evidence, Louisiana W., and fire in my veins. I looked Karen dead in the eyes before she turned her back to leave and said loud enough for every man on that work crew to hear, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." The next morning, I woke up with one mission in my head: destroy the HOA. Not with violence, not with threats, but with something far more powerful, the truth. My phone was filled with footage from the day before: Karen's smug face, the bulldozer ripping through our home, June's terrified cries. I uploaded the videos to every platform I could think of: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. Then I told our story. I held nothing back. Within 48 hours, the videos went viral. The headlines spread across the internet like wildfire. Ho bulldozes family farm while child hides inside. Outrage flooded in. Thousands of people messaged me. News outlets reached out. Neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years showed up with food, blankets, money, guilt weighing heavy in their eyes. But I didn't want sympathy. I wanted justice. And to get it, I needed a damn good lawyer. I hired Connor Blake, a ruthless litigator known for suing corrupt boards, crooked corporations, and winning. The man had eyes like a hawk and a voice like a guillotine. He looked at my footage, flipped through the HOA's forged documents, and said, "We're going to burn them to the ground, legally." We filed a lawsuit that hit them like a freight train. Criminal trespassing, property destruction, reckless endangerment of a minor, emotional distress, fraudulent claim to jurisdiction, unlawful demolition without permit. Karen and the board tried to fight back, filed motions, claimed I was a squatter, claimed I'd abandoned the home, said the farm had ceased operations and was now unkept land. But the evidence was overwhelming. Connor subpoenaed county land records. We brought in zoning officials. I handed over a paper trail stretching back to 1946, proving my family had always worked and maintained the land. Even better, we uncovered emails between HOA board members. One line from Karen: "We remove this eyesore, subdivide the land, and double property values by Q3. That email was the match that lit the courtroom on fire. We got a court injunction to freeze all HOA bank accounts, halt any demolition, and force every member of the board to testify under oath. And that's when the house of cards came crashing down. Turns out, Karen had been running a side hustle making shady deals with developers, illegally selling off land she had no claim to, pocketing money, falsifying documents, paying off one of the county clerks to fast-track approvals. The clerk flipped, testified. 3 board members resigned in disgrace. 1 was indicted. And Karen? Karen got arrested in front of the courthouse. Handcuffs, orange jumpsuit, head down. When the final ruling came in, the judge didn't mince words. This court finds the Saints Creek HOA guilty of gross negligence, fraud, destruction of private property, and endangerment of a minor. Damages awarded to Mr. Whitman, $3.2 million. But it wasn't about the money. It was about what came next. With the HOA dissolved, the land they tried to steal became mine again, legally and publicly. I used the settlement to rebuild the house. Not just rebuild, I made it bigger, better, stronger, solar-powered, fireproof siding, reinforced frame, everything. The first time I walked through the hallway of the new house, I paused where my mother's photo used to hang. The wall was different, the wood new, but my hand still reached out, almost instinctively. I stood there for a long moment. And that's when I realized we hadn't just rebuilt a home, we rebuilt our legacy. I bought the neighboring lot where they'd parked their trucks, planted apple trees there, and at the edge of my property, I put up a new sign. Bold, permanent, unmistakable. Whitman Family Farm Est, 1946, never moving. Then I made one final gesture. At the old HOA's former community square, the one Karen used to host her neighborhood meetings, I donated a statue. A life-size, hand-sculpted bronze rooster. Proud, head raised. Wings slightly spread like he was about to crow. At the base, I had a plaque engraved. Justice always crows louder. And the best part? Every morning at 5 a.m., like clockwork, my new flock of roosters lets out the loudest crow in the county. Just loud enough for the new families of Saints Creek, now HOA free, to hear. June sleeps through the night now. Ellie laughs again, the kind of laugh that fills the kitchen with light. Sometimes I stand on the porch with a cup of coffee and smile. Because I didn't just save my land. I destroyed their kingdom. They built fences to keep me out. I planted roots to stay forever.